Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to the first episode of Season 6 of the F124 Driver Career Mode. Yes, we're back just before the start of the new year, ready to go through all of your pre-season testing news, your driver transfers, your calendar confirmations and everything else as we get ready for Season 6 of this career mode. Of course, if you missed out on the finale that went live just before Christmas, I would highly recommend going back and checking out. Obviously, this week, we've done, a fair few kind of montagey videos, but yeah, we are ready to go in 2025 with a whole host of new content. Of course, today, though, yeah, we've got our grid rundown, and we obviously do these in Constructors' Championship order, and McLaren, for the first time since 1998, are your Constructors World Champions at the end of last season. Of course, that was kind of forgotten about, obviously on the backdrop of the dramatic season finale between Lando, George and myself. Unfortunately for McLaren, despite taking 7 wins over the course of last season between their two drivers, 3 for George Russell and 4 in a row for Lando Norris, neither of them were able to wrap up the Drivers' World title in the end. Obviously, we snookered that away from them in the last race of the year, which obviously I was very happy about. But yeah, McLaren, they've kept their lineup heading into the new year. The car looks very, very racy once again. Their driver lineup is probably one of the best on the grid. Ultimately, I think it's just another year of trying to put their best foot forward and trying to wrap up another Constructors' World title once again. And hopefully this time round, either Lando or George will win the Drivers' Championship as well. Both drivers know what they're capable of. The team know as well. There's no need to change anything within the organisation. Everybody is very, very happy. And I'm sure once again, we will see them fighting at the front. Change, though, down at Mercedes. Of course, I announced it last season. If we won the world title with the Brackley-based squad, then I would be moving to a new organisation. And yeah, Charles Leclerc, after taking a sabbatical last season, he has basically decided to make this Mercedes lineup the IRL 2025 Ferrari lineup. So rather than Lewis going to Ferrari, Charles has gone the other way to Mercedes. Of course, they wrapped up P2 in the Constructors' Championship last season, courtesy of our 5 wins. Hamilton, though, he was pretty disappointing. Didn't get a single podium throughout the course of the campaign. So Charles Leclerc, he'll be moving over and hoping that maybe, just maybe, he can try and get the better of Lewis as his first-time teammate in this career mode. Of course, Charles felt, after that year where we trounced him at Ferrari, he just needed a year out, focus on other things, try and rebuild himself as a Formula 1 driver, and hopefully now will come back even stronger as well. Very, very weird to see him not in a Ferrari, I must admit. A bit like Max at Red Bull. I can't really kind of see Charles Leclerc anywhere else in Formula 1, but yeah, is this going to be a precursor to what we should expect in the IRL 2025 season? Only time will tell there. Hamilton, again, another year with Mercedes. This legacy is set to continue. Ultimately, I think it's probably past its best inside this game nowadays. Hamilton has really, really struggled in the last couple of seasons. Age has definitely got the better of him on quite a few occasions, but as we've seen over on Map 2 and 2 gameplay, when things are going well for him, he really can still deliver big results. So maybe this year is going to be the transformation, back fighting at the front. Just ultimately, these ground effect cars have never really worked for Lewis. Next up, though, is going to be Aston Martin. And, well, Aston Martin, yet again, have kept their lineup of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Of course, last season, Alonso took 3 wins for the team. It was the same story, though, for Fernando, of once again, the car looked great in races, and, so many races, but they just start slipping up as you get towards the end of the season. From Singapore onwards, Fernando was very, very unlucky that they weren't taking the upgrades on that car in the right direction, and ultimately, once again, it meant that he was knocked out of the championship hunt with a round to go and just unable to really do, he was basically helpless towards the end of the season. We saw no Lance Stroll victory, though, like we did the year before, so yeah, Lance was every season Lance gets thoroughly trounced by Fernando inside this game, but yeah, this one was a little bit more comfortable there. Alonso taking 3 wins Lance not able to bag a single one there. However, it must be said though, you know, Aston Martin, they beat out Red Bull, they beat out Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship as well. 3 Mercedes teams, your top 3 in the Constructors last season was a pretty mad record, and just goes to show just how well Mercedes power is working inside this game as well. But yeah, will this finally be the year Alonso wraps up his 3rd world title? I feel like we've said that so much inside this game, and it just does not seem to be happening for the Aston Martin man. But, you know, no matter how many more seasons we've got inside this game, I'm sure we will see Alonso fighting at the front, trying to extract everything out of the machinery he's given. And just maybe, will this year finally be his year in Formula 1? Only time will tell, but we shall wait and see. Up next then is another driver lineup that has not changed since the beginning of this game. Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen still over at Red Bull. Obviously Verstappen, I kind of forgot this. He only took 1 win last season. He was just so brutally consistent and always right there or thereabouts. Even when the car wasn't that great, he was still extracting brilliant results out of it. You know, as Verstappen really kind of became famous for in the back end of 2024 IRL as well. No matter what you give him, he's always going to try and get the most out of that car. And yeah, only 1 win last season was pretty disappointing. Unfortunately, of course, he did get knocked out of the Drivers' Championship fight in Qatar, just like Fernando Alonso did. Ultimately, yeah, Red Bull, reliability dogged them a bit last season. That'll be one of their big focuses there. I think Verstappen had 2 mechanical failures. When you factor in the fact, obviously, we had none over at Mercedes as well. That ultimately, you know, could have been the difference. It would have almost definitely seen him go into the season finale, still, you know, with a mathematical shot at the world title. Perez, I've got no idea how he's keeping that seat and continues to keep that seat inside this game. He must have dirt on Christian Horner or something going on inside this game, because just like Lance down at Aston Martin, for whatever reason, we just don't seem to get any driver moves inside this game. In fact, the only time that I've seen Perez or Lance leave Aston Martin and Red Bull respectively was over in the My Team career mode, where I poached Perez and then Lance went to Red Bull alongside Max Verstappen. And it's safe to say, as this season has gone on, he has been thoroughly whooped by the Dutchman as well there. But yeah, will Verstappen this season finally be able to try and come back and win his 6th Formula 1 world title? I'll be honest, the winter testing pace isn't looking fantastic. I wouldn't be putting too much money on it at the moment. Of course, last season was a year of rebuilding for Ferrari, and although the overall picture didn't look great after winning back-to-back Drivers' and Constructors' World Championships throughout Season 3 and Season 4. Season 5, they only came P5 in the end, but Oscar Piastri did show some good signs of progress in that car towards the end of the year. He bagged a couple of 3rd places early on, and then a couple of 2nd places late on in the season. It felt like that car on its day was able to fight, but I'm still not sure why they're sticking with Enzo Fittipaldi. I don't know what kind of agreement he's got with the Maranello-based squad, but yeah, it just seems like a very odd move. You know, Ferrari pretty much could have the pick of any driver they wanted. I mean, Charles Leclerc's come back to Formula 1. You would expect them to at least try and pick him up. But yeah, Oscar Piastri and Enzo Fittipaldi will remain as the Ferrari lineup as we head into Season 6. Ultimately, though, the car does look quite good. I'm hoping we're going to see Oscar Piastri finally showcase his talents behind the wheel and has got a car this year that can really fight. And maybe, just maybe, we can see him get his first victory in red as well there. But of course, as always, you never quite know. Winter testing doesn't always give you the full picture. Ferrari have often been known for going out looking strong in winter testing and then ultimately maybe putting too much on the table for other teams and then not quite able to live up to the pace that we see from them throughout pre-season testing as well there. Of course, though, as always, it's great to have a Brazilian on the grid, and I'm hoping for Enzo Fittipaldi's sake, last season was maybe just a year of learning inside Formula 1, and hopefully, you know, this year he's going to be able to try and pick up the pace and be a whole lot, you know, even if it's just a good rear gunner for Oscar Piastri, it will make so much of a difference. Next up then is VCARB. After one of, if not their strongest season inside this career mode so far, Carlos Sainz, he's retired. He's had enough with Formula 1. as of right now. So they have brought in Ayumu Iwasa. So again, another Japanese driver, of course, after Yuki Tsunoda, all the way back in Season 1. He is going to be alongside Daniel Ricciardo, that just seems to be keeping that other seat warm until they bring in another junior driver in the not-too-distant future. Of course, Ayumu, a pretty unsuccessful debut campaign with Haas last season. Ultimately, yeah, he was thoroughly beat by a former VCARB or Red Bull junior driver in Pierre Gasly. But yeah, he has found his footing within the Red Bull family, and apparently with Perez always getting signed up to Red Bull, I'm not surprised Carlos Sainz is giving it up, because if he was, a couple of the seasons he's had with that team, if he hasn't got that seat, I would just think it's, no matter what he does, for whatever reason, they will not get rid of Perez. I was really hoping that Sainz or Ricciardo would get the call up into that Red Bull car inside this game. But it hasn't happened, and ultimately, yeah, Ricciardo happy just to stick around with VCARB. Ayumu Iwasa, it's going to be interesting to see how he stacks up against his Australian teammate this season. VCARB, the last 2 seasons, they've just narrowly missed out on podium finishes there. They finished P6, though, last season, up 2 places from the year prior. So yeah, they were comfortably the best of the back markers. That usually ended up being that they were in a battle with Ferrari in front rather than your bottom 4 teams behind. So they're hoping, I'm sure, that they can try and carry on that momentum, and maybe this year they finally break through into the upper echelons of Formula 1 as well. Next up then, we head over to Alpine, and it's another team that has kept their lineup of Yuki Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon. It feels like this game likes to give us the reverse moves of what we seem to see in real life. Of course, Ocon leaving the Alpine team IRL. Inside this game, it's been Pierre Gasly. He went to Haas, and Ocon obviously stayed in Alpine when he's obviously going to Haas IRL in 2025. It's kind of a weird, cursed reverse lineup we seem to get inside this game there. But Alpine, a P5 finish was their best result of last season. They generally seem to be a little way ahead of Williams, Haas and Sauber, but ultimately, yeah, lacked the consistency or the experience, to be honest, of, Sainz and Ricciardo in those VCARBs. Made for a very, very good lineup there. Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda, 2 quick drivers on their day when things are working for them. They are operating at a very, very high level, but ultimately, yeah, they're also 2 drivers that are very affected by their emotions. And, if things aren't going well, then things go really, really pear-shaped for them as well there. But yeah, Esteban, he'll be looking to try and get the better of Tsunoda again this season. Yuki, obviously leaving the Red Bull family a couple of years ago, obviously, or the end of Season 1, wasn't it, to go to his ill-fated move over to Ferrari. He's just looking, I think, to kind of see what doors open for him in the future, and maybe, just maybe, we will see him change teams again before this career mode is down and out. It's ultimately not looking great for Alpine at the moment. The car seems okay, but they just never quite seem to be able to make the leap forward inside this game, and especially, with VCARB showcasing that it might just be possible, and obviously Haas being able to do that in years gone by as well. It's a bit of a shame that Alpine have never really been able to inside this game. Next up, though, is Williams. They were having a pretty depressing season last year, of course, for Albon struck gold in Las Vegas, as often seems to be the case inside this game. Williams, they just rely on Las Vegas and basically that and Monza to try and get good results. Big disappointment, though, Ollie Behrman last year. Quite a few races he was very, very unlucky in his results as well there, but just never quite seemed to be as close to Albon as he did throughout the season prior as well, which was a little bit of a shame because, yeah, we always thought, the young British driver, I would have put him as the driver going to Ferrari in the not-too-distant future, but apparently they still want to stick by Enzo Fittipaldi. Alex Albon is another one that just seems dead set on staying with Williams throughout the entirety of this career mode as well. So, Williams, they seem to work quite well with Alex Albon as well. He's a good, stable driver, can get good results out of the car. Sometimes you kind of wonder whether he can deliver anything truly special, that difference-maker kind of result. But they seem happy together. They work really, really well together. They've had their highs, they've had their lows inside this game, but I still believe the team are invested in a long-term project. But of course, time is ticking inside this game. Alex Albon at this point, is a very, very experienced driver now. Hasn't got too many years left in him behind the wheel of a Formula 1 car. And, do you let Ollie Behrman fly that flag when Albon decides to call it time on an F1 career? Is Behrman ready to kind of fly the flag as well. He still is lacking, those great, truly kind of great results that you see from, a Charles Leclerc back at Sauber all those years ago and things like that. Again, only time will tell, but they were comfortably better than Haas and Sauber last year for the most part. So yeah, Williams were, usually just that bit stronger. Next up, though, we head down to Haas, and of course, yeah, really, really disappointing year for them last season. Their worst result so far in this career mode, only finishing in P9. And, I'd hinted at it, I'd mentioned it, I think I even said it at the end of last season. I had to go back. We've got to try and get Haas a championship inside this game. I always wanted to early on in the career mode, but ultimately, the move to Ferrari was too good to miss out on. And especially, as I've learned, how difficult it is for some teams to be interested in offering you contracts later on in the game. Obviously, Haas came to me early on in the year. I remember joking that it was a bit like, your ex-girlfriend trying to, get you back as well. But ultimately, this is going to be a long-term vision. This first season, unlike the last 3 campaigns, we are not going to be fighting for the World Championship. We are just going to be trying to maximise results that we can, scoring points where possible. Maybe, just maybe, we can get a couple of podiums here or there, and if things went perfectly, maybe a win. But yeah, I cannot stress to you enough how difficult a mountain this is going to be to try and climb with Haas. They're probably now further off the top car pace than we were back in Season 1. That's just how difficult it has been for Haas over the last couple of years. And ultimately, the Ferrari power unit last year was not particularly fantastic either, which meant that, yeah, obviously Ferrari, Haas and Sauber were all a little bit screwed over as well. Pierre Gasly has retained his seat. It's going to be interesting to see how we get on, going up alongside him. I don't think I've ever raced alongside Pierre Gasly in an F1 career mode before, so this is going to be really, really exciting as the year goes on. But yeah, reunited with my first Formula 1 team inside this game. I want to try and win a world title with them before we are done with this series. And last but not least then is Kick Sauber. They finished in exactly the same position as they did at the end of last year. They had exactly the same amount of points with exactly the same best result. Zhou Guanyu, 1 point. This time round it came in the penultimate round in Las Vegas, obviously just like we saw IRL when he took a point in the penultimate round of that year in Qatar. You'd never guess I'm recording this video before the final race in Abu Dhabi. It is currently November 2nd when this video is going out, so I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas and holiday period, and I wish you all a happy new year as well. And no, I'm definitely just not filling time because there's nothing to talk about with Sauber. I did and ah about going to Sauber for these final couple of seasons on this game, but ultimately I thought if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do a whole separate career mode over on Mat 2 and 2 gameplay when the My Team series is wrapped up. So yeah, Sauber, don't put any money on them unless you're going to be betting that they're going to finish last again. Things are not looking great. I've said it so many times, but yeah, Cody's absolutely ruined them with the BOP they got early on inside this game, and it's just never been fixed. It's been out 6 months now, and basically what happened was obviously Sauber, the overall performance of the car got dropped by like 50 points early on in the game. So even if you max out the car, it's still 50 points lower than it would have been beforehand. So obviously they try and balance everything else out, and Sauber have just been absolutely screwed over. So they are pretty much always 50, performance points behind everybody else inside this title. And ultimately, yeah, it really, really does screw them over. So maybe a project saving Sauber will happen, but yeah, that'll be on Mat 2 and 2 gameplay. I've got a lot of plans with that channel throughout the new year. Let's head over though. Of course, this was a nice little new feature that I added last season for those of you that made it right the way to the end. We are now 99 rated inside this game, which is pretty good. Pretty much all of our stats as well, apart from the experience stat, are fully completed as well. Obviously, after wrapping up that World Championship, there you go, 99 rated inside this game there. We had a 58% recognition against Lewis Hamilton, so we absolutely wiped the floor with him. And there we go as well, earning a few extra things from the specialist as well there. But yeah, basically the plan now, of course, I'm expecting F1 25 to be released around the same time as F1 24 did, so that'll be kind of towards the end of May. I'm just going to go to Haas now, and that's probably going to be our last driver move inside this game, of course, unless we, by some miracle, wrap up this World Championship with Haas in the first season. I think it's going to be a 2-year project inside this career mode, but yeah, Haas will likely be the last team I drive for inside F1 24. This annoyed me. I signed a contract with them ready for the new year. But it only gave... I signed it up with, I think it was 60% recognition. We'll take a look now, because I want to double check on this. But for some reason, the game's only given me 59%. So we've actually can't do the last upgrades on the Haas car as well, which is going to make trying to bring them further forward inside this game even more difficult. But yeah, we did sit down with Eleanor over the winter break, obviously tried to agree terms and everything like that. Haas, the American outfit, signing a 99 rated back-to-back double world champion there, and you can see I've signed a 2-year deal. I was trying to get my recognition up to that 90%, up to that 60% there, of course. I'm not expecting my driver rating to drop or anything like that. So yeah, it is locked in that we've got 60% recognition, and that is really, really critical if we want to try and get those last few upgrades on the car as well, because once you get to 60% recognition, then you can do all the upgrades inside the game. And of course, you know, we've got a fair few R&D points as well that we're just holding back at the moment. I was going to try and spend some of them on getting Mercedes a bit quicker, because I don't like to try and... I think it's always odd that you can take your R&D to a different team, which is a little bit peculiar. It's something I've tried to avoid doing inside F124 as well. But yeah, when we take a look over inside the garage, yeah, we for some reason just get screwed over with that one. Again, we're just going through all of the same information. You can see on our statistics there. First place in the championship, 5 wins over the 16 races. We gained 2 driver rating and 3% recognition against Hamilton last season. And there we go, the Drivers' Championship trophy. Like I mentioned, obviously in Abu Dhabi, the first driver since Juan Manuel Fangio to win back-to-back titles. But with 2 separate teams. Obviously, taking a look at the calendar for the next season, I really enjoyed this season's calendar, but I'm going to change it up just a little bit. Qatar and Abu Dhabi are going to be scrapped at the end of the year, so Las Vegas is going to be the season finale. I recorded this not long after the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and I thought it would be good fun just to try something different, ready for the last campaign there. So we're going to start the year, the first 4 races, as they are normal inside this game. Bahrain will be the season opener before we return to Jeddah for round 2. Albert Park, and then Japan in round 3 and round 4 there. I've got rid of a lot of the sprint races just because they're just a lot of busy work ultimately, and the videos don't tend to do much better. But I think maybe we throw Miami back in for this final season. Yeah, we head to Miami, and then obviously we've got the European leg of the campaign with Imola, Monaco, Canada, Barcelona, Austria, Silverstone. I don't bother with the Hungarian Grand Prix, I don't like it particularly. And then Belgium and Italy back together as they should be there. A very, very short flyaway season though. Singapore, followed up by Brazil, and last but not least then, the Las Vegas Grand Prix. The final round of this year will be on Haas's home soil. And of course, we've tried a lot of the different scenario modes throughout this game as well. But this season, when I spanned the wheel, it actually ended up on none. So we've got no kind of scenarios ready for this campaign, obviously. The balancing out the field did work quite nicely. Maybe I'll bring that one back for Season 7, obviously, if we do a Season 7. Like I mentioned, my kind of final game plan is we're going to do a 16-race season now, and then if we've got enough time, the last season on this game will be 24 races as well there, which is pretty cool. But yeah, we're back at Haas. We're back at Haas. Like I said, it's probably going to be the last move that we make inside this game as well there. But thank you all so much for watching this video. You can see quickly a rundown. Obviously, Charles Leclerc's gone to Mercedes, replacing me. I've gone to Haas, replacing Iwasa. And then Iwasa has gone to VCARB, replacing Carlos Sainz. Not many moves once again. That just seems to be the way inside F124 there. But yeah, like I said, thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed. And as always, I will leave you guys with the fun little promo video that the F1 game likes to do this year.